Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
You for sure have been like the front runner for me for a while.
Do you feel like you made a decision?
No.
It's pretty strong no. You're starting to scare me over here.
No, I mean, I feel very strongly.
So I've been giving Mike a lot of shit, and in this moment, there's no shit to be given. He's handling the threats to his ego or his image well. You know, this is a humiliating, potentially humiliating experience, right? To be in love, to be expressing, he's saying everything but the L word, but basically saying he's all in with Megan, and Megan is reciprocating, but also saying, you know, I want to honor my other connection. Now, she's telling him that Mike is number one, so that could be reassuring, but, you know, there's still a threat there, and there's still being treated kind of like you don't matter as much. Now, for people who are raised well enough, they can handle this relatively well, although I think anyone would have trouble. But in the past, he will seemingly react from hurt, which is fine, but then his way of reacting is through masking as if he doesn't care with the laughter. He's kind of doing a little bit of it right now, but you know, not strangely, I don't think. And he would also go on the attack in a passive way, at least the way that it looked. So, you know, I'll commend him for that. And when it comes to personality problems, which I don't know if he has, it's a matter of spectrum, right? And I don't know if I said this, but I suspected that if someone like Mike presents would be on a spectrum like narcissism or something along those lines, then the markers that I'm seeing on the show, on an edited reality TV show, are such that it wouldn't be at the top of the spectrum, at the severe end of the spectrum. So for these people, when they are under threat, the defense and the mindset and the shooting themselves in the foot will come out to the forefront. You'll see it. But when they're secure, then you don't see it as much. They don't need the defense. The humanity underneath the defenses comes out, and you know, they're just like everybody else.
You, like very, and I would say I'm falling in love with you, but I am trying to honor my other connection.
I can respect that.
I guess as a citizen, I'm more curious about Mike's personality, so I kind of hope that Megan picks him. Although Jordan also seems interesting, but Mike has exhibited some things that I'm more curious about moving forward. And it looks like she's going to choose him, so.
I just want to be sure you're sure about me. For me, that's like a very vulnerable thing to think about. As a guy who doesn't really throw his heart out there a whole lot, and just kind of super calculated about everything.
That is in line with my conceptualization of him, which is fairly tentative, right? It also fits with, if the formulation is right, that he is lower on the spectrum because he's able to have a meta understanding of himself. People at the far end of personality issue, characterological issue spectra don't have insight. They think that everyone else is strange, and or they're just so much in a perpetual state of survival and panic that they don't have time to look at anything like themselves or what's happening in the world. They're just reacting out of terror and fear and anger and all the things. And so that's in line. He's basically saying that when he's in his cruising mode, or when he is being threatened attachment-wise or image-wise, he isn't vulnerable. He is super calculated, he says, about everything. And it would make sense that, and we've seen this before, seemingly, that, you know, the 10 days in the pods, you're isolated, you are really focusing on yourself and your needs, you want to fall in love, and you start to shed all of those defenses that are around so often in your regular life. You know, even when you date and you get real serious about people, if you don't spend 10 days just talking through a wall, then you might not really feel that warm cocoon safety to just be yourself, you know?
And I try to just know what I'm up against at all times. It's tough.
One of the biggest things I'm seeking in a partner and in...
Yeah, I interrupted him. I want to hear that whole sentence because that was pretty interesting. I don't know about him, but it is indicative of narcissistic spectrum, meaning, 30% down the road, 40%. And I mean, it's just an arbitrary percentage that I have, but also of avoidant attachment, which are related to narcissism. But let's rewind that.
As a guy who doesn't really throw his heart out there a whole lot and just kind of super calculated about everything, and I try to just know what I'm up against at all times. It's tough.
One of the biggest things.
Yeah, so if you have someone like this in your life, if you're like this yourself, then this can be a time to reflect on that underneath the bragging, and the distancing, the superiority, the critical nature that they can have of other people to differentiate themselves as superior to others, the distancing, the lack of vulnerability, the coldness, underneath all that is someone saying, I have vulnerability and needs, and I'm normally calculated and protective. I don't know if that's the word he's saying, but I think that's what he's saying, is that normally I'm very protective. I have walls up, but I'm putting myself out there right now with you and telling you basically, I want to marry you, but I know that I'm not supposed to say that at this point. I don't want to pressure you. He's saying those, I'm sort of putting words in his mouth, but he's being pretty clear that he's all in with her and he's ready to propose. He's ready to say, I love you. He's ready to propose. And she's like, well, I want to honor my other connection. And he's feeling that vulnerability and that hurt that you would feel just a little bit, right? I mean, it could be a lot, but it is matched up with, she's saying, you're basically number one. And from the way it sounds, Megan is saying, just give me a little bit more time and we're good. And he's feeling that pain and he's communicating. He can see it. He has insight. He is not resorting to superiority or distancing or anger or rejection or something. And he's reflecting on it, one, and then communicating it, two, which, big thumbs up. So I say all this because if you have someone like this in your life, you might not see that very often, or you might see glimpses of it, particularly if it's like a friend or something, right? And often this is what's underneath it. I'm not saying you're supposed to be friends with them. I'm not saying that you're supposed to stay married to someone like that, but it does help to understand, because what people will say is narcissists, this is why online, the way people talk about narcissists is that they're sadistic psychopaths who have no empathy. One of the problems that I lament about the DSM is that under for the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, they say lack of empathy, but that's not the way that experts see it. It's not a lack of empathy, it's impaired empathy. They have empathy. It's a primordial empathy. It's an immature empathy because it hasn't developed much, particularly at higher ends of the spectrum. It's a childish empathy, but they have empathy, whereas psychopaths lack empathy. That's the key. Now, can you have a psychopathic narcissistic person? Yeah. Can a person suffering from narcissistic personality disorder exhibit lack of empathy? Can they be callous? Yeah, but their capacity is such that they have the capacity for empathy. I said that word. They have the capacity for empathy. Whereas psychopaths, generally speaking, it's hard to know exactly, but we generally will characterize psychopaths and people with antisocial personality disorder as fundamentally lacking empathy, particularly at higher ends of the spectrum. Anyway.
I'm seeking in a partner and in a marriage is like somebody that is sure in me and like they're telling me that I'm what they want.
I'm sure about you. I feel like I've asked you like every single question, and you've pretty much hit it out of the park.
Now that part of it is a little hard. Now we're only seeing a very small portion of their questions, but the things they've talked about are surface or are materialistic, image-based right? We're going to have the most beautiful kids. We're going to be a power couple, that kind of stuff. But people can be happy together. I could see them being happy together. They actually seem like each other's type in a lot of ways. And when, let's say they get married and they run into issues, probably distance would happen. And then hurt that would happen with distance for both of them, I think. I think she would handle it a little better, but maybe not. And with therapy, with growth, with effort, with work, they could actually figure out a way to develop themselves, to take care of each other. They're not a lost cause. I'm actually starting to pull for these two.
That's all I got. That's all I got for you.
Did you just like slam your book shut?
Close the book. I'm cutting you off right now. Putting the shoes on.
You're putting your shoes on?
Put my shoes on.
Are you leaving?
I want you to want me.
Okay. Yeah, did he do something like this before? I don't know what this means. There's a possibility that he is experiencing a vulnerability hangover. He is experiencing discomfort, and he wants to run, like avoidant attached people will do, which narcissistic people on the spectrum, even mild. I mean, I'm mildly on the spectrum. I'm like 5% in my scheme of percentage. And yeah, when I'm threatened, attachment-wise, if anything, I have if I lean in insecure attachment style, it's avoidant and it's to run. It's just be like politely back into the hedge like Homer Simpson, just like I'm disappearing. And there's so there's nothing super pathological about it, but it does potentially indicate that underneath he's suffering. Now, if this is a defense that is functional, then that's fine. I'll work with that all the time with couples and individuals. I'm not saying that if you're avoidant or even on the narcissistic spectrum that you're supposed to like work against your defenses. The defenses can be helpful as long as you're aware of it and you tell someone. Like if he had awareness, and if this is the case, which I can't know, then he could say something like, so I'm just going to tell you that I'm really into you, but this conversation is a little triggering for me. It's not your fault, and I'm happy that you are honoring your other connection. I'm glad that you're basically saying I'm number one, but I have to say, I mean, this is tough for me, and I'm like I'm worried that things aren't going to work out. I'm pretty sure they will, and I'm optimistic, but there's a part of me that's kind of freaking out, and so my normal thing is to run. And I don't want to do that emotionally, but I feel like I need a break right now. I feel like I just need to go back to the lounge for a second. Or can you tell me when you're ready to make the decision? Because it's really hard to interact with. If he said something like that, no, maybe she would have a problem with that. But I don't think that's what he is doing. I don't think that's what he's aware of. I don't even know if that's what's happening. So defenses without awareness and being open and vulnerable and trusting about expressing the way that I just role-played it, you risk shooting yourself in the foot. This could alienate her. He is kind of saying, I'm going to punish you for not choosing me right in this minute. I'm going to extract myself. I'm going to withhold. I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to reject, abandon. Now, that's not what he's doing, but she could feel it that way. Now, she's not very reactive at all, I think, to a fault to some extent. So I imagine that she's not necessarily going to freak out about this. But we're just using this as a jumping off point. I have to say that Mike could absolutely be a cousin of mine, right? Especially the eyebrows. Although his nose is a little more white. I think he got I assume he's half Asian. I don't even know. I'm just taking a guess. Half white, half Asian. He has a more white nose, which I don't know if I'm jealous these days, but when I was very young, my nose was even smaller, and I hated my nose. Even when I was in grade school, because of racism, I was identified as being other, and pretty much everything about my face that made me other was not liked by me. So I would sit in front of I would watch TV, because your mom would say, hey, don't make that face for too long because your face will stay like that. And so I thought that was some sort of biological fact. And I would hold my nose out for hours trying to make it grow. It was a long time ago. It's sad. And those kinds of internalized racist reactions are all over the world, really, and still happening today, which is sad. And we can be sad for all of us in that way. I guess I'm just saying I wish I had Mike's nose.
Mike, I do. I mean, how are you faulting me?
I'm not faulting you. I'm not faulting you. I'm just testing you a little bit.
Yeah, so she's feeling it, right? She is feeling the hostility, I think, of, are you faulting me for saying you're number one? And because we don't know where they are in the 10 days, right? If they're day 5, then that's one thing. If this is day 8, because I think what my contact on the show told me was that the proposals are all on the 9th day and all of the hallway scenes are on the 10th day, even the ones we saw in episode 1 of this season and previous seasons, right? They all follow that format. I think partially because even if they have people that are wanting to get engaged earlier in the week, they don't have all the setup production-wise, like that hallway. They set that up for one day, right? Anyway. So we don't know where they're at. If this is day 8 and she's still thinking, then, we could imagine he would be a little bit more upset. If this is day 5, then come on, Mike, give it a break. There's nothing wrong with her thing here, but it could amp it up. But anyway, I think she's feeling the hostility, and she's like, wait. And then he says, no, I'm just testing you. Yeah. So I think what happened was he heard some things from her. He was putting himself out there. He wants her. He likes her. And he put himself out there, and it got a little bit. It got reassurance, but not enough, which would be normal to trigger and concern and worry anyone. But given his pattern, then he starts to resort to distance, not only just getting out of the pods, leaving a date early. Because my contact also says that once they start narrowing it down, they'll spend all day. Like Megan might literally spend 6 hours with Mike and 6 hours with Jordan. And if it's like a half an hour into 6 hours, and that's all you have to do, right? It's not like you have work or TV or anything. You're just like, well, I just sit in the lounge for the next 5.5 hours waiting for Jordan, So and especially if Megan's like, you're my number one, you're the main reason I'm in the pods today, So he's saying I'm test. So I think he got vulnerable. He has enough insight. He has enough trust or maturity or differentiation to do that. But then it got a little worrisome. It was too much, and so he's now resorting to those defenses that we saw before, I think.
Are you faulting me?
I'm not faulting you. I'm not faulting you. I'm just testing you a little bit. I mean, I respect how you're embracing the experience.
And I will say that avoidantly attached people, and maybe some, a portion of narcissistic people will do that. They will distance as a way to test. For people on the preoccupied / borderline spectrum, they will test in other ways. Like they will ask questions, or they will text and say, how fast are you going to text me back? Or they will follow you around literally to make sure you're not cheating on them or something like that. Whereas avoidantly attached people, they are not comfortable being vulnerable. They're not comfortable pursuing. They're not comfortable putting themselves out there, but they have the same insecurity. They have the same worry constantly. For borderline preoccupied people, not everyone with borderline is preoccupied. Certainly not everyone with preoccupied is borderline, but I'm just saying that generally. That for those folks, they have an orientation towards pursuing, right? And panic and trying to game the system to retain. Underneath the avoidant narcissistic person is that feeling that preoccupied borderline people have, but their coping technique is to run away. and distance and turn off emotions. They have the emotions, they have the panic, but they don't want to show it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to deal with it, so they run. But they have all those feelings. And so what they will do is, like, this is just one scenario, but a common one. There will be a conflict, say, between an avoidantly attached person and a non-avoidantly attached, whether it's preoccupied or secure or something. And there's some kind of fight, some kind of distance, some kind of disagreement, some kind of hurt. And the avoidantly attached person will just stand up and say, I'm done with this. I can't have this conversation anymore, and walk out. Now, there's a lot of purposes that are potentially being met by the avoidantly attached person. One is it's just intolerable. There's mounting emotions and cortisol, and they just can't handle it. Two, this is just their normal way. It's a routine for them to do this. Three, though, what they're really hoping for, because they feel threatened attachment, they want attachment, they want warmth, they want closeness, they want security, but they don't have a way to ask for it, or to be vulnerable, or to sit around and wait for things to work out. They also have a superior way of thinking when they're stressed out, of just like, ugh, she's illogical or whatever. That's a common one. And so one of the purposes, though, is I'm going to walk away. And there's various different versions of this. Sometimes it's literally just running away, or blocking someone, or just calmly walking out of the room, or turning off, stonewalling, that kind of thing. And what they're desperately hoping for is that the person will chase them somehow, whether it's text, hugging, literally walking after the person. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's one of the only ways that avoidantly attached people can communicate that they're hurt, which is not a good way to communicate that you're hurt. Particularly the way that they do it, because they come across like they really just don't care. But they care deeply. They care deeply. They care as deeply as a preoccupied borderline person, but they're often not aware of it, or even if they are, they're not willing to show it. So the cure for these folks, avoidantly attached people, is vulnerability. Whenever I have a client or someone emails me, what's the cure here? What's the sort of topic sentence? And I say vulnerability, vulnerability. And the visual behavior that I will attach to it is, I will say, when you can cry in front of your attachment figure, like your partner, your spouse, when you can feel hurt by them and cry in front of them, you'll know you have kicked it. You have cured yourself, or you have gotten to the core of you, and you're no longer engaging in the defense of narcissism and or avoidant attachment. So we might be seeing that right now. Now, he's navigating it not horribly, and he's like, no, I'm not punishing. I'm not punishing you. I'm just testing you. And but I feel like Megan has him number one for a reason, and he's done this sort of thing before, so I can't imagine that this would matter that much to her. She might even kind of understand it on some level. I don't know. All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time. I'm going to continue watching, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really, really do. You do.